Good morning, hope you're all okay today. If you're doing the film brief, I just want to take you through your DVD cover conventions. So I'm going to do DVD covers first, next I'll do theatrical posters and teaser posters, and then after that we'll move on to statement of aims. So we're probably going to start the statement of aims just after half term if you can complete your research over this next couple of weeks. So the first thing I want to show you is your terminology for your DVD cover. Now, this is the bare bones terminology. There might be other things that you see on the ones that you research or the ones that you make that branch out from this a little bit, but every single one of you should have these things on your DVD cover. So first off, you'll have the star. That doesn't just mean the person whose photo is appearing on the front cover. It also means the name of your director, if you've got a big name director. So somebody like Danny Boyle, for example. You might decide to have his name on the front cover. So from the producer of Slumdog Millionaire, for example, or from the director of Slumdog Millionaire. In terms of your star images, you need to make sure that your costume, your mode of address, posture, the lighting, the props, the setting, the facial expression, and the camera angle all encode your meaning and your genre. So are you constructing an image of a protagonist, an antagonist, an anti-hero? Are you going to use chiaroscuro, for example, to show that your character might be slightly duplicitous or slightly ambiguous in his morals? So are you going to have half the face in shadow, half the face in light to show that there's part of the character that's hidden? For example, all of that should match across all of your platforms. Okay, so if you're doing a podcast, you need to make sure that your star, even if they're not in character, portrays some of the characteristics of your star representation. So they need to be able to talk about the character in a realistic way that constructs the same representation. And you also need to make sure that your posters have similar costume, but the same mode of address, camera angle, facial expression to encode that meaning. Bear in mind, you can't use the same images on your DVD cover as you do on your poster. They can be similar, but they can't be the same. Moving on, you've got the spine, which is the middle of the DVD Blu-ray cover where the box is going to fold. On your spine, you should have an image of your star at the top. You should also have your producer logo. So that's going to be either BBC Film or Film 4. You'll then have the title of the film and you'll have the age rating. You'll probably also have the DVD or the Blu-ray logo at the very bottom underneath the DVD rating. So all that evidence needs to go on the spine. You'll also have your reviews on your cover. So these might go on the front or the back cover. You might have them on both. The reviews act as evidence of critical acclaim, which is going to show the audience that your film is worth purchasing, worth buying, worth consuming. So you'll need short, catchy quotes from respected sources. Sometimes you might have a 5-star rating. You might also decide to have film logos, kind of film festival logos, to show that the film is well respected. Now, particularly with BBC Films and Film 4, you want that critical acclaim. In terms of Curran and Seaton say that independent film producers or film producers that don't have the same budget as big mainstream producers tend to rely on critical acclaim and film festival accolades rather than giant marketing campaigns. If you're creating something for Marvel, for example, that would be different to what you're going to construct for Film 4. Do bear in mind, though, that this is going to be a film for mainstreamers and aspirers. So your film narrative needs to either have a star that would attract that kind of audience, or it needs to have a narrative that isn't too far removed from the conventions of your chosen genre. You also need to have your age rating on both your DVD cover and your 2 posters. On the front cover, it tends to appear on the bottom right, particularly on British covers. So you'd have the British rating, which is red, and the Irish rating, which is like this blue octagon. And you would also have it on the spine and on the back cover. American DVD releases tend to just have the rating on the back cover, which will be evident when I show you Blue Story a little bit later on. Bear in mind you're creating for a British audience because you're trying to create connotations of Britishness, so your age rating will appear on the front, on the spine, and on the back. Your blurb is like you get on the back of a book, 200 words that create enigma and offer those broad details of the narrative that helps to construct the genre. We tend to end with a rhetorical question to attract the audience. Now, you might see on some of your DVD covers that the blurb is quite short. You will just need to make sure that your blurb is longer. So without giving away the ending, you need to make sure that your narrative is well enough thought through, that you know how the film is going to end, but you stop your blurb just before that third act. So you might end on a rhetorical question that lets the audience guess what's going to happen next. A composite image is where you take your images separately and then you Photoshop them together. So we already had some practice of that this year. Perhaps when you did your vampire posters, you will have put the images of the fangs over the images of your people. So we've already done composite images. Your brief requires 8 or 9 images on the DVD cover. You'll have to check over the brief to see whether it's 8 or 9 specifically. You need to take your images separately and then Photoshop them together to create a layered multi-character image that looks neat and professional. So what you would do is you take your images of your characters, you would take your images of your background, and then you would composite them together. I'm not asking you to do this now because obviously in lockdown it's going to be a bit difficult. However, it's worth looking for DVD covers that do this. It's also worth, if you don't think you can do this, finding images or finding DVD covers where you do have a broad variety of images. So I'm going to show you examples of both of these later on. You'll have a special features box on the back cover that denotes exclusive content, so perhaps behind the scenes, direct commentary, interviews with the star. You might decide to have kind of American trailers on a British DVD to show that critical acclaim. You'll also have the barcode, which will be positioned on the back in that bottom third, so probably in that technical specifications box. If not there, then just outside. It can be quite small, it just needs to be big enough that it can scan in the shop or it can scan on Amazon or whatever. Your technical specifications, if you have DVDs in the house, it's worth looking at a few of them. One thing you can do for this deconstruction is actually take a photo of them, perhaps print it out. You can annotate all around it and then just send me the picture so that I know you've annotated it. Your back of the DVD cover will have a box with your technical specifications. So this will be things like the runtime, the aspect ratio, what language it's in, what subtitles you can get, what the sound specifications are, etc. It may also contain logos such as the Dolby logo to show the quality of the sound. You might have the DVD piracy logo as well to show that kind of European piracy laws apply here. So we've got regulation as well. That will need to be made from scratch. So we'll do that when you're back in. Unless you've got Photoshop at home and you're well enough away with it that you reckon you can construct this at home, in which case, go for it. You'll also have your institution logo, so that would be either the BBC Film logo or the Film 4 logo with a transparent background, so you'll need to Photoshop the background out and just have the white logo or the black logo, depending on the colour of your cover. That would go in the technical specification box, on the spine, and on the front bottom left corner to show who has made the film. Again, with American films, it tends to just appear on the back, but you're making for a British audience. So just make sure you understand that, just in case you find an American DVD cover for a British film release or a British BBC film. The billing block you see on posters and on DVD covers, that's the block of text in that Arial narrow caps, that tall skinny writing. That gives the name of the stars, so starring, directed by, executive producer, costume designer, sound, soundtrack, score, etc. All that stuff appears in that box. And again, you'll have to make that from scratch. There is software online that enables you to create that billing block, and then you just kind of create a JPEG of that and pop it onto your DVD cover and your posters. So that's all quite doable. The technical specifications box tends to be what takes the longest in terms of kind of raw Photoshop text creation. So we'll do that when we get back in. Finally, you've got your brand identity. So what this means is your logos, fonts, colours, mode of address, any other elements of your DVD cover have to be consistent across all the pages and platforms. Now remember, you can't use the same images on your DVD cover as you use on your poster, but you can use similar images. So we're talking similar costume, similar camera angle, but perhaps a slightly different photo from the same photo shoot. Moving on from there, we need to just do a little bit of work around genre. So you need to make sure that you have a clear genre, subgenre, or hybrid if you're going to construct a successful professional film marketing campaign. So if you're doing a hybrid genre in particular, you have to denote very clearly what genres are being hybridized, whether that's on the blurb or whether it's on the images in your DVD cover and your posters. You should have decided in your last bit of research whether you're doing Film 4 or BBC Films. That's going to affect the genre of the text and the extent to which it conforms to or challenges existing conventions. So BBC Films tend to go with historical films. Film 4 tends to go with more contemporary, perhaps working class, or kind of class and race related issues. So you might decide to apply a bit of bell hooks when you're doing your representation analysis in your statement of aims. Again, something like Blue Story talks about particularly a racial hierarchy in British working class cities and boroughs of London, and how though that class hierarchy creates enmity and hostility between members of the community itself. So you have a lot more social commentary with film 4. BBC films tend to tackle kind of larger, broader issues, as we'll see later on. You also have to cover Steve Neill. He's our main genre theorist. So remember, Steve Neill states that repetition and difference are essential to the economy of the genre. This means that the producers must create texts that are both familiar and surprising if they are to be financially successful. So what that means is when you analyse your DVD covers, tell me what genre tropes or genre conventions appear, and tell me whether it's a repetition, a difference, or a hybridization. That way I will know very clearly what your understanding of your genre is. So moving on from that, I want to show you 4 DVD covers. The first one I'm going to show you is Joker, which isn't a BBC or a Film 4 film. However, it is beautiful and uses quite a lot of the conventions that we need. So we'll see on the front cover, Joaquin Phoenix, Joker. We don't necessarily need the name of the director, Todd Phillips, because he's created some films that not a lot of people like. So we have Joaquin Phoenix and Joker. We have this image on the front of our star, creating this very kind of theatrical pose. We can see the clown makeup. However, this is juxtaposed with the fire behind him, so the car on fire. So we see kind of an inner city chaos, kind of riot, anarchy, and that anchorage creates for us the narrative. So we see that this is the origin story of this very, very famous character. And we see this kind of clown who wants to perform. However, he also has this unhinged part of his mind that relies on chaos or craves that chaos. So that's all done here. We have a review from Rolling Stone magazine, which is very well respected, and Peter Travers, again, a respected film critic. Joaquin Phoenix is phenomenal. Annoyingly phenomenal is misspelled here. It should be E-N-A-L, so, I'll expect you to correct your spellings. We also see Film of the Year from Terry White of Empire magazine on the back. So 2 reviews demonstrating to us the quality of this film. On the spine, then, we see the institutional logo, the title of the film, and we see the star down at the bottom. So we've played slightly with the conventions. The convention normally is to put the star image up at the top. Here, we've perhaps placed this star at the bottom with a sad face with the clown makeup to demonstrate that he's perhaps at the bottom of the social hierarchy, or he's downtrodden. We have the DVD logo at the bottom. What we don't have is the age rating. And like I said, because this is an American film, it appears on the back. So we'll see R on the back. So it's rated R, restricted audiences on the back. Now, as I was saying, on the back cover, we have Film of the Year by Terry White. We have our 200-word blurb. Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix, ekes out a living as a clown, performing for tourists and children as he dreams of fame as a stand-up comedian like his hero, talk show host Maury Franklin, Robert De Niro. So we've got these star names to draw the audience through. If you go to the last sentence, it says, Phoenix keeps us on edge as he reveals the soul of a man in crisis. A tentative romance with his neighbour Sophie, Zazie Beetz, grows dangerous with each encounter. So we have there that enigma at the end. We have 3 stars named here, Zazie Beetz from Deadpool 2 and also Atlanta, Robert De Niro, huge star, Joaquin Phoenix. We have on the back our image of the makeup melting with that directed dress, kind of referencing Heath Ledger's Joker. If you have that cultural competence, that intertextual reference, Heath Ledger's makeup was famously made by putting the makeup on kind of a stamp and stamping it onto his face. We see here the same kind of thing with that almost handprint image on the back here, with the green hair and the melting makeup to show that perhaps Arthur Fleck is draining away and the Joker is becoming prominent. We have these 3 images at the bottom. You would be expected to do something similar on your back DVD cover just to make up that 9 images. So a strip of images on the back cover, either horizontal or vertical, to create that narrative. We only have here 1 character. You would expect to have 3 and at least a representation of one social group on the back. Down at the bottom, beneath the images where it says Warner Brothers Pictures Presents, that's your billing block. Okay, so that's what you'll need to construct, or once you get back into college, but that's kind of what I need you to notice at the bottom. So this bottom quarter of the page on the back, that's the bit that's going to take the time to get perfect. Underneath that, we see all our logos. So where it says widescreen, Dolby, CC, DVD, DTG, Village Roadshow Pictures, and then it says colour, feature runtime, approximately 100 minutes. And underneath that, we've got the copyright details down at the bottom. That is the technical specification box. Okay, so that's what you're going to need to construct. Now your logos, so BBC Films, DVD, CC, Dolby, etc., you can download those. And you would also be expected to have a barcode on the back of this as well. So that's all I needed to annotate really on the back of this DVD cover. I wanted to show you a couple of BBC films as well. This one's called 8 Minutes Idle. Annoyingly, I couldn't find the back DVD cover for this. But what we have here, you could take the images of the paper clips and composite those onto your DVD cover. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 images on this front cover because we've got the images of the paper clips as well as 6 images of the people. We have quite a few smaller stars here. We have Antonia Thomas and Paul Kay, Montserrat Lambard, who are perhaps our biggest names. However, it would be you'd expect audiences to have kind of great in-depth knowledge of independent film, or perhaps of UK culture from the last 20 years to understand who they are. So Paul Kay, very famous comedian in the 80s and 90s, very subversive. Antonia Thomas starred in Misfits. If you've seen that, I would kind of ask you to watch that because it's really, really good. She's also been in Lovesick on Netflix. You've got your charming, bizarre, and charmingly bizarre from Shortlist at the top there in a typewriter font. So it says 8 Minutes Idle, or How Not to Have an Office Romance. So that 8 Minutes Idle there is a reference to kind of people being watched in an office situation, and they can tell how long your computer has been idle for. So how long since your mouse has moved, how long since you've logged in. And it's a way of keeping tabs on the people that are working for you. So perhaps in that 8 minutes, this boy was talking to this girl and they've struck up a romance. It says based on the award-winning novel. So again, that's a little bit of critical acclaim at the bottom there. And we've got our age rating logo down on the bottom left. There's a nice mix here of handwritten fonts and typewriter fonts, again, to demonstrate that this is perhaps in an office setting. And then these black and white line drawings could be doodles that somebody has drawn while they're bored in the office. So like I was saying, we have that eye contact there with the stars up in that top strip there, like it's been paper clipped in place. So the only people given direct address here are the 3 people in the middle of that bottom row of pictures. Our 2 stars are focused on each other with this soft focused background, denoting perhaps fairy lights and romance. So that's this cover here. There's this film here, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which is being released on Wednesday, the 20th of May, I believe. This is really, really nice. If people that are doing DVD covers, something like this, in terms of negative space, is absolutely perfect. This is what you need to be aiming for, really, in terms of your construction. This is really simple, but also really beautifully executed. So this would be sophisticated enough to get you the A if you were to do something like this. So on our front cover, we can see enough playing around with codes and conventions in order to intrigue the audience. So an extraordinary film for this very moment from Entertainment Magazine. But where you would expect to see the title of the film, there's that negative space. Then we see, written and directed by Eliza Hittman, Her Journey, Her Choice. So there is your tagline. One thing the other 2 films were missing, Joker was missing, was a tagline. 8 Minutes Idle had, or How Not to Have an Office Romance. Here we have Her Journey, Her Choice. And then we have Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, anchored on the face of the star. So we're playing around with conventions enough that it intrigues the audience. We also see on the back cover no images of people smiling, very little direct address, and we see 2 or 3 people on that back cover there. So this would be enough to get you that those marks on your coursework. It does fulfill the requirements of the brief. We've got 3 4-star reviews on the back. It has had a lot of critical acclaim. It was produced by Lionsgate and BBC Films. You'll remember from Corinne Seaton with I, Daniel Blake, the more producers we have for a film, that means the more risky or subversive the content is, because it's difficult to find backers for films that have difficult or unconventional narrative structure. We'll see the DVD logo on the spine, on the front cover, and on the back cover as well. And then we see 2 pieces of evidence of critical acclaim. So a Sundance winner, and then another film festival logo as well. So 2 logos or brands really from 2 film festivals, which again demonstrate how good this film is. One thing you'll notice about the back cover of the DVD and the front cover is that there is very little location, very little evidence of where this film is taking place. We've used close-ups and big close-ups of our stars. So a big close-up is where the forehead or the chin has been cut off to show more of the facial expression. And by doing that, the background has been cropped out of these images. So we're creating enigma. So it says, inseparable best friends and cousins, Autumn and Skylar precariously navigate the vulnerability of female adolescents in rural Pennsylvania. So this is set in America, but I think looking at this, it could very easily be set in England. So you could, by use of that hood, by perhaps choosing people on trains or at train stations or at bus stops, you could create that evidence of Britishness here. You'll see at the bottom the billing block, the logos, and the technical specifications as well. So something like this is really, really nice. Just one font, really clean, quite simple to do, provided you've got a really strong idea and good photography. So something like this is recommended. And then lastly, we've got Blue Story. Now the blurb for this is very short, so it wouldn't meet the brief. So we would expect you to have your 200 words blurb on the cover. We can see the Paramount logo on the spine and on the back. It was also produced by BBC Films, as you can see underneath the billing block on the back. What we don't have, because this was an American release, is the age rating on the front. We do have the rated R on the back. You would be expected, as I was saying, to have that UK age rating on the front, the bottom of the spine, and the back. We have composite images here as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 images on the front cover. So our 2 stars, our background, and our 7 characters at the bottom. So this is well over what's required in the brief. You could perhaps do something similar, but with 7 characters rather than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters on the front. You've also got your star on the spine, again at the bottom of the spine, which is, as I was saying before, unusual. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 images on the back. So we've got the knife, the gun, and our 5 images. Now, because this is so far over the requirements of the brief in terms of the number of images that are offered and also the number of characters and the locations that are offered, you would be able to download the image of, say, a knife and a gun, because your main images have been taken by you. You've also got the blood as well, so that would be yet another image that you'd be able to get off Google, take the background out of, and pop on your back cover. On the gun, you'll see the special features as well. The back of this, personally, I'm not too keen on. I think you could take up more space with the blurb and less space with those images. I would put the images close together so that there was more space for the blurb. We've got a film by Rapman, Creative Shearer Story on the front. So we're creating a mode of address there. The audience are expected to know who Rapman is. We're also creating representations of Britishness with the SE13, SE15 up at the top, and the blue and the grey. Beneath that, you'll see a background image of London skyscrapers and cranes. Then very, very faintly, it says Lewisham in the blue and Peckham in the grey. So SE13 and SE15 are London postcodes, so South East London 13, South East London 15, a bit like SK2, SK7, etc. So we're showing that these two boys, who perhaps were brothers, have become enemies because they have to live in separate places. So there's quite a lot to be shown on the back of this DVD cover as well. You've got your billing block and your technical specifications on the back as well. So what I require from you by the first week back after half term is for you to find 3 DVD covers from your producer in your chosen genre. They're going to create images. Sorry, they must contain images of people as the main representation, which is stated in the brief. So you have to have images of people. Try to use films from BBC or Film 4. Make sure that you annotate all 3 with the conventions that are evident, and if the DVD cover doesn't use mainstream conventions, make sure the producer has chosen to challenge or subvert those existing conventions. Okay, I'll post the deadline up on Google Classroom. Thanks. Bye.